Service user involvement means to me to try and change the way the mental health is perceived in Portsmouth. I feel that I can use my experiences of AMH services to make positive changes by sharing my journey with professionals and other service users.
It means trying to get people who are basically empowered to know your views, and so if you go along to the meetings you can tell them exactly what you want or think of the services. It's the way of having a voice.
I've become involved because over the years I've been in and out of services back in Harlow in Essex, and not felt my voice was getting heard. Pushed a pillar to post, and so I'd like the opportunity for service users now to let their voices be heard.
Well, over the years that I've been involved in various capacities, particularly in mental health, I think it's about giving people the choice and the opportunity to get involved at whatever level they want to be involved in, when and where and with whom. That's about people being recognised and valued for their own views, for their opinions and for their experiences of mental health services firsthand. I think it also means encouraging people to be involved at all levels and having a range of opportunities available for people.
It got me out of bed, got me down here to see some nice people and have a bit of a fun and do something constructive, and yeah, so you know, I'm not one of these power for the people types, I suppose, because my experience of the service was actually very, very good, but I see the value in our ideas being heard, and I like the potential of the service user movement as a whole.
It means having a say and giving back, I think. Yeah, giving back and making a difference, you know, to people's lives,
I think service users should be involved in any way they possibly can be. I think the danger of service user involvement, as it kind of has been traditionally, is that very few very vocal people become involved and become like, this is our service user, look, we're doing service user involvement, it's got one service user who's really confident. That's not service user involvement, that's just tokenism.
We've always had service users on our management committees, and we have had periods when we've had a majority of service users. But I think we've been conscious at times that we've always said, isn't it great we've got this person here as a service user? And it's been slightly tokenistic. Occasionally maybe the person hasn't really been well enough to be truly engaged in making decisions, and that creates a kind of moral, not a moral dilemma, but you know, there are some moral issues there.
I went to a meeting on Tuesday in London, an early intervention network meeting, and one of our former service users came along in a voluntary capacity. But it was really great to have her there because the whole meeting was about service user and carer involvement. So to have her there looked really powerful because it's like, you know, we want this woman here. She had such great things to say. It kind of really showed us in a great light, and it was really pleasant having her there because she's a lovely lady and it was good to spend the day with her.
There's no them or us as a service user, because you go around to so many meetings, they see you as a valued work person, and they don't sort of say, oh, right, it's a closed meeting now, please leave the meeting. We've got over that now, we're accepted everywhere we go. Having service users there can actually make meetings kind of more business-like in a way, because I think there's a risk sometimes you get a kind of group of people meeting who kind of know each other quite well, and you know, the dynamics are already in place, and I think that sometimes having a service user there can serve to actually really focus the attention of the kind of professionals who are in the meeting, because I think it just kind of puts them in a mindset where they're actually thinking about, well, what are we doing this for? We're trying to make decisions which are going to improve the services for you know, these people who are you know, the people that are represented by this person who is here in this meeting. And I think it's just something, it just changes the way people think sometimes. I think it's quite subtle, and there might actually be very little
kind of active participation sometimes from a service user, but just by being there I think can make a difference.
I feel that the professionals have all learnt their stuff through textbooks and studies and stuff, but in reality it's a lot different to what you're taught or what you've read in the book, and I feel that it would benefit the professionals to have a service user there that has actually been through the system, the good bits and the bad bits, being in hospital, being stable, to actually gain experience from them, what it is actually like for someone living with a mental health condition.
We're the ones using the service, we're the ones who are dealing with the mental illnesses. Our feedback is, it is important, yeah, I mean, expertise, isn't it? The expertise of experience.
I'm thinking about this in the context of committees of trustees, yeah? I, in some ways, without sounding too sentimental, feel quite privileged that I've actually learned a lot. And I've learned a lot from being put right about assumptions that I've made that are incorrect, by being challenged by service users, because I think I'm thinking the right thing and I'm being a nice person, and in fact, I've actually misunderstood. When people have actually shared experiences that give you, which is quite, yes, it's something of a privilege if people will do that. They've shared some of their experiences which have been good and bad, which means that you can learn from that yourself and you can kind of turn that into influencing the way you behave and you work as a committee member yourself. So, I mean, I think that's a really important part of it, and which is why I think that we should always have service users on our committee, despite what I said earlier on about tokenism and etc. Because without it, we're losing that whole dimension of bringing it back to the real world of service users.
The more service users get involved, the more feedback there is for the service providers, and that can only be a good thing, basically.
So there's so many different ways you can be involved. It doesn't have to be the traditional turning up at a meeting.
I think there's some areas of service user involvement which are kind of blindingly obvious, and all anyone needs to do is to be very clear about that and quite principled about making it work effectively. So, for example, something like involving service users in the appointment of staff in any organisation. As long as those service users have given as good a briefing and a training on recruitment and selection and interviewing, etc., as anyone else, why not? It would make absolute sense, because they bring to an interview panel or a selection panel a whole kind of perspective that other people don't have.
I've done an interview panel. I've done patient forums on the secure unit. I've done come to the meetings. I've done a few bits and bobs, you know.
Going into the hospital and sitting on the forum for me was really exciting, and I can relate to these people, you know, so it's exciting for me.
The other reason you might get involved, it depends on the circumstances of the person, of course, but actually it gives you a real insight into kind of what goes on in a big organisation sometimes, depending on what part of it you get involved in. But you get to sort of attend meetings and sort of see the way that decisions are made, and you will learn about all the many directives from the Department of Health or targets from the Strategic Health Authority, and it's which you may or may not be that interested in, but it might give you an insight into into why services function in the way that they do.
I say always come at least 3 to 4 times. The first time you're a bit scared, the second time you're just putting your toes into it, the third time you're a bit more comfortable, and the fourth time you say, yeah, I can do that, or I can do this. But give it a couple of times, don't make up your mind the first time you go to something.
And also just be aware that you don't need to disclose anything that you don't have to or you don't want to and you're not comfortable with, particularly initially. Because most of the professionals, for example, if you're in a board or on a group, won't be disclosing lots of personal information. So you should just feel what you're comfortable with, and looking after yourself is important too.
For the service users themselves, it's got to be confidence building. It's got to be something which is saying, I'm bringing something valuable here, I've got experience and knowledge and understanding, and I can bring that to this particular table, yeah? And I can make a difference for other people, which is really why everyone gets involved in the first place.